All right, here's what we're going to do because we are almost at the top of the hour. So we're going to take a break. We're going to play another great track from this this band, DC Wolves. And then when we come back, Dan and John from the band should be on Skype with us. They're Skyping in from the great state of Connecticut, the state of my birth. And really looking forward to talking to them. I love this band. I love this project. Really, really good stuff. So we're going to play this track. Paulie C just joined us in the Facebook live chat and says, it's a known fact that St. Pius hated dancing. I didn't know that, Paulie C, but it's wonderful that we can get these theological insights. Paulie C, of course, host of Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C, which you can hear Friday nights from 8 to 11 p.m. tomorrow night. Friday is my favorite day of the week here at WMNH. Really look forward to that. And Paul was at the NHAB Awards last night, too, with Peter White and I think Matt Juno and Kyle Clayton all went together, I believe. I always call it the Channel 9 WGIR Awards. But yes, I'm sure they had a wonderful time. All right, let's do this. We're going to get to this track, and then we're going to have those guys on Skype with us. This is called I Am Atomic from the band DC Wolves. Check this out. This is great stuff. I Am Atomic. Oh, that is good stuff. That is DC Wolves. And I think we've got both guys on Skype. Let's see. Dan, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can. Excellent, excellent. And John, are you there?
Yep, I'm here as well.
Perfect, perfect. You just never know with Skype, with merging calls and everything, if it's all going to work out. There's a lot that can go wrong. So I'm relieved. Welcome to the show, guys. It's great to have you on. I love what you're doing. We've got, if you're just joining us, we have Dan and John from DC Wolves. They are Skyping in from, you're both in Connecticut, I assume?
Yep. That's correct.
Yeah, yeah. And you're going to be at Swarmy Fest this year, coming up next month, right?
We will. We're very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to I was just going to say, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys live.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting because we followed Sepsis at least for a while because they have such an interesting online presence. They're doing podcasts, they're doing all kinds of stuff. And so when we saw the announcement for it, we're like, oh, that would be kind of neat to get on. And here we are. They pointed us to you guys.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, very glad. Yeah, they do a lot. They're very good, like you said, with their online presence. They're pretty advanced in that way, and it's wonderful to see. It's wonderful to have that association with them. They've been on the show a bunch of times, and we do feature a lot of their music. And Jenny and I, we were at last year's Swarmy Fest, and we're looking forward. In fact, I'm wearing the shirt today, and we're looking forward to being involved this year as well. So this band, so Dan, this started with you, right? Did this kind of, from what I was reading online, did this kind of grow out of a solo project that you were doing initially?
Right. So it started back in 2018. I was playing in another band at the time, but I was getting the itch to start writing on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just wanted to kind of explore that a little more. And it was more of like a challenge to myself to see if I could do it.
Yeah.
And, lo and behold, I was able to come up with, a full length version of all the songs, and then, slowly started putting the pieces of a band together. And, that's how I got involved with John too. He's helped me realize the whole vision, which is great.
Excellent. So John, now what do you do in the band? Because obviously, it started with Dan, and then he credits you with really helping him put this together. So what's your role in DC Wolves, John?
So I play guitar. I basically pick up all the parts that Dan wrote that are too difficult to play and sing at the same time.
Yeah.
So he hands over all the heavier, the more intricate riffs to me. But like it's been really cool working with Dan. Like I've got a metal background, so this was completely different for me. And Dan and I met up because I was working on a different project, and that project didn't work out. But Dan was looking for a guitar player for this, and I was like, you know what, this seems really cool. I want to see if this works. So I learned a couple songs, met up with the guys, and ended up joining up, and really love it.
Excellent. Yeah. Is that the leads? Is that all you? Are you doing all the leads, the solos?
Dan's live. I do, but I'm not on any of the recordings. Dan did all the recordings himself.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, Dan, I love those solos. They're really melodic and very very tasteful.
Thank you. I took a lot of David Gilmour inspiration because he's not necessarily. I mean, he's technically proficient, but not like you'd say like a metal guitar player. But his lines tend to talk. You could go and you could sing a David Gilmour solo.
True.
And so I took that as kind of how I wanted to do it. It's not too complex, but it's also something that you could hum along to.
Yeah, I forget who I heard say it, but there's somebody I heard say once, I wish I could remember who it was. Maybe it was David Gilmour. But somebody said that as a lead player, part of what you should try to do is tell another part of the story. Whatever the story is that the lyrics are telling, when your solo comes up, you want that to be more of the story and not something that's kind of, because, the way some guitarists approach it, they're not concerned with that. And it ends up being this whole other thing that doesn't necessarily sound like it's part of the story, which is fine, obviously. Doesn't matter. But it sounds like what you're doing, it really kind of fits with the verses in the way that you're continuing the story. At least that's how my ears sort of interpret it. And maybe it was David Gilmour who had said that. I don't know. But
he's definitely a master of capturing the mood of a song.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's my favorite part of Pink Floyd, because to be honest with you, I've never been a big Pink Floyd fan, only because a lot of those songs, I'm just only there for the solo. You know, like a song like Comfortably Numb, to be honest with you, it kind of bores me a little bit, except I'm there for the solo. Do you know what I mean? I know most people love Pink Floyd. I just love David Gilmour, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Or
that's a hard one for me, because honestly, I'm there for the entire thing. Like,
yeah,
my favorite Pink Floyd song is Echoes. So take that what you will, man.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I'm the weird one. I know that, because I'm probably the only person who's ever said that. I'm just there for the solos. Anybody else, you know, they're there for the whole thing. But no, I mean, I respect Pink Floyd, of course, and all the members. But yeah, but yeah, I love a good Pink Floyd solo. Can you tell me about, Dan, did you write all these songs yourself, or did John have a part in that, or tell me about the songwriting process?
Sure. So in the songs that are out right now, those were all just me. So I with the exception of the drums, because I can write drums on the keyboard, I can play some simple stuff, but ultimately in the recordings, I had somebody come in and work with me. Now on future recordings, we're working on stuff as a group now. It's time, you know, I like the process of working on my own, but there's something about collaborating with other people and sharing ideas that's really exciting. And it's just great to be in a room with people who are all excited about the same thing as you work on it. In terms of songwriting process, I tend to start with the idea of what I want the song to sound like before I've even written anything. So, you know, on an album like Predator, which is probably a lot of the songs that you're going to be sharing tonight, you know, I'll start with, okay, I want something to start this section of the album off with a bang, or okay, let's get a little introspective or slower, or I want something with a better beat. So say if I want to have something with a beat, I'll start with the bass and drums as opposed to guitar riffs. And then I kind of work off that way. So if I get something really thumping, I can kind of build the song from there. And also focusing on mood. Do I want it to be slow? Do I want it to be sad? Do I want it to be upbeat and fun? You know, that's kind of where I come from.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you explain it, because it sounds like a really different approach than the way a lot of songwriters do it. A lot of people I talk to, you know, it's kind of like a melody occurs to them or some lyrics occur to them, and it's they're kind of, and then they go from there. But it sounds like you're really kind of building it from the ground up, in the sense that when you're writing a song, you know, you're starting with things like, you know, what the mood is, or what the beat's going to be. And you're kind of really just starting at the very bottom and just kind of building up. It's interesting. Have you always approached it that way? Because you've been at this a while, obviously, with different projects before you really started with DC Wolves. So has the process changed at all over the years?
It has, and I wasn't always a songwriter. For a long time, I was the bass player in several bands. And so I think a lot of my songwriting comes from that, where I'm starting with what rhythm is going to work under what people are playing over the top of things. You know, what are the guitar players doing, and what can I make that's interesting to listen to, but still kind of covers, you know, a rhythm kind of guitar part. Because the way my previous band worked, we had me as a bass player and the drummer kind of filling the rhythm section, and our guitar player would not solo, but he would use a lot of effects and make kind of soundscapes.
Yeah.
So I kind of started with that, because I would take whatever he was doing on guitar and try to make some kind of mood out of that.
Okay.
And it just kind of evolved from there. You know, I learned a lot about songwriting from the other people that I worked with. And so eventually I started getting the itch on my own. And, you know, you go with what you know. I was never taught formally. So,
yeah.
You know, that's how I learned, and that's how I continue to work.
Yeah, I love these. Like I said, I love all the tracks that you sent us. I played a couple of them at the start of the show today, and you were getting a great response too in the Facebook live chat. How do you describe your sound to people who haven't heard it? Because it's, I can hear a mix of influences, but I can't think of, your vocals remind me of somebody, but I can't quite place who it is. But I can't think of another band, at least that I've heard recently, that you really sound quite like. I think there is a uniqueness to your sound. So how do you describe it to people who've never heard you?
I guess I would I'd stick to probably the hard rock realm, because I have a lot of, when I was really catching on to music, that was like the nu metal era, right?
Yeah.
So grunge had just happened, and then the late 90s and all of those bands, Stone Temple Pilots and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of specific, but I would kind of describe it as stoner rock a little bit, because I tend to write, or I tend to like to write a lot of riffs.
Yeah.
And I also like to have the melody, so I can write some very, hard hitting riffs, but also be singing over it with as catchy as I can come up with of a vocal line. So it's kind of balancing the line between rock and metal. So
okay.
It's kind of somewhere in between, and that's kind of where I like to go with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think, John? Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I would definitely. It's definitely we're I don't know. I think the realm that we're in, it's like we're kind of a throwback to a lot of '90s stuff, but we also have some parts that are definitely influenced by newer bands as well.
Yeah.
So it definitely falls in the realm of like alternative rock, but it's on the harder edge.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound, I definitely hear the '90s influence, but it sounds, it sounds modern and contemporary. It doesn't sound like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, to me, it doesn't sound like something that you would necessarily put to any particular era. You know what I mean? Which is, and I mean that as a compliment. It doesn't sound like it's from necessarily any one specific time. If you told me that this came out in the '90s, I would have believed you. But if I had no idea that it had been recent, and you told me, yeah, this came out recently, I would also believe you. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it does. It does, and I think that makes a lot of sense, because one of the first concerts I went to with my parents was Tom Petty. They brought me to Moody Blues and like a bunch of those bands, and then start getting into, as I growing up, the 90s. I was a little late on that, so kind of on the tail end of the 90s, but also, Nirvana, of course, and Pearl Jam is still kicking and doing their thing. But then more modern bands, Queens of the Stone Age, Arctic Monkeys, lots of untold metal bands.
Yeah, yeah, and I can hear the Queens of the Stone Age influence, certainly, just as one example. But and by the way, so this is now Predator is your sophomore release, right, with this project? So there was something before Predator for this band?
Yes, there was. You've Been Careless was the first one. That was my first foray into that, and
okay.
That was. I think I want to say 2019. And then pandemic happened kind of around the time I was working on Nighthawk, which was just an EP. That's about 4 tracks. And then Predator was recorded while things were, everyone's masking up and all that. So
yeah,
it was an interesting time. It was very creative. And I think that's partly because it was kind of a shitty bad time.
It's all right. We're on a delay. I caught it. Yeah, that's been it's been a consistent subject that comes up on the show when talking with musicians, is how the pandemic obviously was terrible, but we have to find these silver linings where we can. And one of the silver linings is it really a lot of creativity and a lot of great work came out of that time period. And I always say too, as bad as it was, we are fortunate in a sense. It sounds strange to say it this way, but we're fortunate in a sense that it happened when it did, because if it had happened 20 years earlier or even 10 years earlier, before we had as much technology as we have now, I think it would have been much more difficult for musicians and other creative people too, to really produce a lot of work,
Yeah.
Oh, without doubt. 10 years ago, you didn't have any of the capabilities you got now. Like, technology is really springboard in the last decade. Like, most people have home recording studios now. You didn't have that 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the ability to, easily just email tracks back and forth if you're, working on a song remotely with people, and or get on Zoom. And something we saw a lot at the height of the lockdowns is some of these classic bands, getting on Zoom together and doing live performances together from different remote locations. Yeah, it just incredible, the creativity that came out of it. So like I said, we have to find these silver linings where we can. But yeah, so are you already working on new material now that you're working as a band, and the two of you guys plus the other guys in the band? Are you have you already started recording new material, or are you still kind of promoting Predator?
So we're at the point where we're just about done with the demos. It's going to be another EP, another 4 songs.
Cool.
And we are working on the scheduling piece.
Okay.
So working out with the studio when we can get in there and make it happen. So we're very close to getting started with that.
Excellent. And this will be all 4 of you on the new EP?
That's correct.
Excellent. Yeah, a lot of great bands, start with one person, and then it starts out a solo project, and then it grows into something else. So it's cool to see. I mean, Foo Fighters being the obvious example. So was that kind of the goal from the beginning with this, when you started this DC Wolves, as when you started doing this by yourself? Was it always the idea in your mind that, you would bring in somebody like John and bring in some other people, and that it would grow into a band? Did you know that from the beginning, or did it start out as, we're going to see where it goes?
I think it was more of a we'll see where it goes. And as we kind of got more comfortable with each other, it just seemed to make sense. And I really like I indicated before, I really missed the collaborative process of working with other people. And then, the way we're doing it right now is we're writing a lot of parts on our own, and sending them. Yeah, as you said, we use Dropbox all the time.
Yeah.
We have our whole project folders in there, and then getting together when it's time for practice, and then we play it live in a room.
Mm-hmm.
And by then we've already constructed most of the song, and it's actually really exciting to write things that way, because you all get together and get to hear it firsthand the way you always imagined it in your head.
Right. And did the two of you work together? You might have mentioned this already, forgive me, but did the two of you work together musically prior to DC Wolves? Is that how you knew each other, or?
And we met through a project that I was working on. It was like a doom metal project, and Dan came down to try out for vocals, and unfortunately, just the pairing of everybody together in that project, it petered out pretty quick after that. That's like when I contacted Dan, was like, hey, I kind of got the itch to play live. It was like right after lockdown started getting lifted and everything. And so I hit up Dan and was like, hey man, you looking for a guitar player? Cause I think I can play this stuff.
Cool. There you go. And then how quick did it come together with the other guys?
If I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, the time you were the last piece of the puzzle that we needed.
Yeah.
I think we had Joe, the drummer, and I had already been playing together pre-pandemic a little bit, and we had kind of constructed a band. We had done a 3-piece for a short time, which was difficult. As John indicated, it's tough to play all of the guitar parts and sing at the same time. You really don't get any break when you're doing that. So pandemic happened, no band for a little while, got back together with Joe, and then recruited Andy on bass, who is also contributing a lot of the background vocals. And then John was the last piece of the puzzle.
Excellent. Very good. And we have a call. I think Easy G is on the line. I think he has a question for you guys, and I think I can guess what it might be. Easy, is that you?
I haven't called up during one of your rock and roll sessions here. I was just wondering if the band has ever played in Canada.
I knew that was going to be the question. You guys ever play in Canada?
We would love to play in Canada. I don't know about John having a passport, but I do.
I'd get one pretty quick.
Oh, there you go. Does that answer your question, Easy?
Yeah, okay. That's my only question. You guys have a great rest of your show.
All right, thank you.
Love to come and play in Canada.
Yeah.
Canada's a big country. Where would you like us to play?
Yeah, that's not part.
Yeah. I've always heard Montreal is a really good metal scene, but I don't know.
Oh, I love Montreal.
Yeah. There you go.
We visited.
What's that? What'd you say?
It's a great
We
city.
vis-
I used to work for a bunch of metal record labels, and I've
Oh,
went through Montreal a bunch of times on different tours, and it is a great metal city. Like they love metal there.
yeah. Yeah. I've never been, but that's what I've always heard. Oh, so you've got some other, do you still work in the music industry, John?
No, no, no. I work at a tattoo shop now.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Very good. Well, that's cool. That's, you get to do something else that's also creative. Very cool. How long did you worked for, what did you do for these labels?
I worked as a merchandiser for a bunch of bands. I worked for Century Media Records and
Ah,
worked for Candlelight Records for a handful of years in the early 2000s, and kind of got burnt out from it, and then stopped doing music for a bunch of years, and then met Dan kind of when I was trying to get my foray back into it. So
excellent. Excellent. Working for Century Media. That must've been cool. Well,
it was awesome. At the height that I was doing it, they were just massive, and
yeah.
everybody that worked there was so much fun. Like they had a bunch of record labels under the same roof, so you had the entire Century Media family. You had Abacus Records, Nuclear Blast USA was under the same label as them, and then there was three other subsidiaries I can't remember the name of, and everybody worked in the same building. It was really awesome.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. How long did you work for them?
About 4 years.
4 years. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I had we had Conrad Ware on the show who worked at what was the name? He was in Boston. He worked at a big label in Boston, and now the name escapes me. But he kind of he did what you did and a merchandiser, and but he said it's so funny. He said the same thing. He loved it, but he got to a point where he just got burnt out with it. But yeah, the industry will do that to you.
Well, it was like at that time I had an apartment I was renting in Massachusetts and an apartment I was renting in California, and I wasn't there for like 9 months out of the year in each place. So I was like, why am I spending all this money on these places? I need to settle down and get my finances in order, and that was like part of the burnout too. Like being on the road's rough, man. Like it really kicks the crap out of you after a while.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's I have a little bit of experience with that, and it's not as glamorous as people think. You're not.
No, it's not.
You're not.
It's a lot of legwork.
Yeah, you're not flying around on a private jet and just having fun. That's for sure. That's for sure.
A lot of standing around, a lot of waiting around, and then when it's time to go, you got to go.
Exactly. So what's
fast food too?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. It's not the healthiest lifestyle, certainly.
Living at gas station food.
Yeah.
Wawa.
So what's kind of the long term? Do you guys have a long term trajectory for DC Wolves? Do you have any specific goals? Are you looking to go on tour or anything like that, or what's the plan, or is there a plan?
Well, I think for next year we're looking to do some short tours and really get out there. I mean, this was more or less a building year. We spent time getting the band together, the four of us gelling, and then, played a bunch of shows this year. And now as we're starting to write, once we actually have that EP together and ready to release, it's time to get out there and actually show some people. So, I think New England, Pennsylvania, New York, some of those areas are probably make the most sense to start with.
Yeah, no doubt. Are all four of you guys in Connecticut? Are you all kind of close to each other geographically?
Two of us in Connecticut and two of us are in Massachusetts. So Joe is in Westfield and Andy is up in the Worcester area. So he's got a bit of a haul.
Yeah. Not worth it though. I like I said, I mean, I love your sound. I love what you guys are doing. By the way, it might be an odd question. I'm probably the only interviewer who asks guests this question, but there's a reason. So I really like your website. Do you guys, does one of you do the website, or who does the website?
So I actually work with a PR I don't want to call it a firm because it's a single person,
Yeah.
but I have a PR person that actually does a lot of the social media and website design and that kind of
Oh.
stuff. And it's somebody I worked with, that I started working with when I was still doing it on my own, because, you know, I was writing and producing all this music, but
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of a lot for one person to then also be spending time online doing posts and doing all this stuff. So
Oh,
I got
yeah.
connected with her, and this is Noisegate PR is what they're called.
Oh, okay.
Goes by her name is Nao, and she's done a great job. She, you know, we have regular meetings talking about, okay, here's our release plan, what's coming up, what shows are coming up, you know, making sure that we're getting all the flyers out there and the event invites. And
Yep.
she's always looking for opportunities to, you know, get on and shows like this, for instance.
Yeah.
And we just work great together. So I can't take credit for the design of the website.
Yeah.
So it's her. Like, I help out with the info, but that's about it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, shout out to her. The reason part of why, well, there's really two reasons I bring it up. One is, so I'm a web designer myself, so I look at and I analyze websites a lot. But number two is, I see a lot of artists who have websites that are not great. So when I see a band with a website that I think is really good, I just have to say, you know, well done. Nao. Yeah, this is a really good website. So I'm a website nerd. What can I say?
I appreciate it. And I think it's a great tool to, even if it's not the main page, because a lot of people find artists on Spotify or
sure.
YouTube or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's a great tool to have, that you can have all of your links to everything you've got available.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention things like, you know, say an EPK. So an EPK being a collection of information that you would send out to a publisher or an interviewer or something like that, that might have articles about you or reviews and a collection of videos and those kinds of things. So it's really like, it ends up being a marketing hub in a way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. It's so critical, more than some people realize. And the pictures are really good too. Now, does she do your press photos too?
No, we've worked with various photographers, but I have always liked to work with people in the area to kind of support different artists in all kinds of different areas. So, you know, some of the artwork and stuff has been used by graphical designers that we know, or in some cases even companies like Fiverr. So photographers, we've used various ones in the area. We've tried different people for all kinds of different sets of photos, and you know, it's great. You gotta support the scene. Yep.
Absolutely. And it's worth doing, not only to support the scene, but it helps your presentation online as well. And it's just really good. I'm very impressed. So I just wanted to say that. I wish everybody that I interviewed put as much time and importance into that part of it. So excellent.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, this has been wonderful. And I'm going to let you go in a couple of minutes. I'm going to play another one of your great tracks, Lie Down. This is another one that I absolutely love. But before we do that, so obviously we were just talking about it, dcwolves.com. All the links are there to all your social media and Spotify and all of that. Anything else you want our listeners to know? You got any shows coming up this weekend? Obviously, you're going to be at Swarmy Fest. That's next month, but really looking forward to that. But anything coming up in the meantime, too, that you want our listeners to be aware of?
Swarmy Fest is going to be the next one for us. And then after that, we're getting back to recording. We've got some personal stuff going on in the meantime. So we do have to make time for our own live.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, all of this, I mean, this is more time consuming than people might realize, you know, writing and recording music and playing shows and everything. It's funny. People who have never been a musician, I'm sure you encounter this, don't realize how much work that it really is. But kind of like what we were talking about earlier, it's not all glitz and glamour. There's a lot that goes into it. So, all right. Well, we'll let you go. Dan and John, thank you both so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I am a big fan. Can't wait to see you live at Swarmy Fest next month. That's going to be amazing. But I really love your sound. And like I said, I can't think of anybody who's doing it quite like you're doing it right now. I can't think of anybody else out there who I think quite has your sound. So that's cool too. It's good to hear something, something that's unique. But thank you guys so much. We'll let you go. I'm going to play this track, Lie Down, and I will see you next month at Swarmy Fest. So thanks, guys.
Sounds great.
Forward to
Thank
meeting you.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, wonderful. That was Dan and John from DC Wolves. And let's play this track, and then we'll come back with the balance of our show, our final segment coming up. But listen to this. This is Lie Down from DC Wolves here on Matt Connarton Unleashed.